Hello folks, my name is Sid Ryan and I want to welcome you to my channel, The Raw Edge, where you'll hear the unvarnished truth on many different topics. Today's video is a warning sign, a red flashing signal about a man, Pierre Poilievre, who will destroy this country if he ever gets his hands on the reins of power. I have assembled 5 reasons why Canadians should ditch any idea of voting for Pierre Poilievre in the next election, so let's get into it. There is a wise old saying that you can always tell the character of a person by the company that they keep. And if that has any truth to it, then Poilievre keeps extremely bad company. He has embraced the leadership of the far-right freedom convoy that held the citizens of Ottawa hostage for over 3 weeks. The extremist leaders of the convoy have links into white supremacist and racist organisations. During the siege, there were several incidents of protesters flying Nazi and Confederate flags. Despite this information, which was widely known, Poilievre decided to support the leadership of the convoy and even march with one of his leaders, James Knott.
Mr. Poilievre, why did you choose to come support James here today? Why did you choose to come and march and support James here today?
Poilievre has also received an endorsement from the most despicable person, Alex Jones, the man who claimed the killing of 20 children in the Sandy Hook school shooting was a hoax. Poilievre has refused to reject his endorsement. Likewise, he was endorsed by Elon Musk, yes, he of the Nazi salute, and Jordan Peterson, both of whom recently endorsed one of Britain's most vile white supremacists, Tommy Robinson. Again, Poilievre proudly accepted their endorsements. But not only does Poilievre cavort with white supremacists and racists, he was also sneakily and secretly courting the support of misogynists online. It was discovered by Global News that his YouTube videos included a hidden tag appealing to online misogynistic organisations.
A report from Global News. It found that over the last 4 years, Poilievre's official YouTube videos included a controversial hidden tag, a keyword used to help attract certain viewers, stemming from a mostly online movement of misogynistic men.
Now let that sink in. Canadians need to ask themselves, is Poilievre the person we want leading our nation on the international stage? Is this the man who embraces the far-right extremist ideologies, a role model for our children? Come on, Canada, we can do better than this guy. The patron saint of workers. When Poilievre was a minister in the Harper government, he was the most rabid, anti-worker, anti-union MP on Parliament Hill. Hardly a day went by that he wasn't introducing legislation that attacked workers' rights. Everything from the RAND formula and right to work laws, which would drive down wages and impoverish workers.
Elected at 24 years old, he emerged within Stephen Harper's government as the leading enemy of workers' basic rights. He helped push legislation to make it more difficult for workers to unionize, to collectively negotiate, and to go on strike. The best tools they happen to have against elites and employers.
Union bosses, union bosses, union bosses.
However, now that he's running to be the Prime Minister, he has discovered that he loves unionised workers after all. His transformation has been little short of a miracle. He could almost become a candidate for saintly canonisation after he dies, and be appointed as Saint Pierre, the patron saint of workers. During the day, Pierre is out there usually managing to find himself a small friendly factory or a grocery store where he glad hands with workers and tells them a bunch of hooey about giving them big fat paychecks. But when night falls, and under the cover of darkness, Poilievre secretly slips into the mansions and the private venues of Canada's rich and famous. The fake champion of workers has been privately fundraising with the mucky-de-mucks of corporate Canada in their mansions and their private venues. These are the same corporate lobbyists, bankers, venture capitalists and CEOs that he falsely calls out during the day, but secretly sucks up to at night. In his 2024, his Pay for Access fundraising scheme, he's raised over $40 million, which is twice as much as the Liberals and the NDP combined. I can assure you that the captains of Canada's economy do not readily open up the doors of their palatial mansions unless there's something in it for them. Poilievre makes no bones about it. Elect me, he tells them. I'll slash your corporate and payroll taxes. And that, my friends, will mean less money for healthcare, social programs, the very programs that bind the nation. For the past 2 years, Poilievre has hammered home his mantra that Canada is broken.
Because after 8 years of Justin Trudeau, everything feels broken. No, after 8 years of Justin Trudeau, everything is broken.
Painting a horrible and grim picture, false picture, of a defeated and broken nation. His doom and gloom rhetoric played right into the hands of Donald Trump, amplifying the narrative that Canada is a feeble, broken nation that is ripe for bullying, or even worse, annexation.
Mr. Lopez, you said you were considering military force to acquire Panama and Greenland. Are you also considering military force to annex and acquire Canada?
No, economic force. Because Canada and the United States, that would really be something. You get rid of that artificially drawn line.
Suddenly now that Canadians are rallying around the flag, Poilievre has found patriotism and is desperately trying to pivot, puffing out his chest as he cosplays Captain Canada, vowing to save us from the big bad orange clown from south of the border. But it's too late to try and change his image now. His years of tearing down Canada have emboldened Trump. Poilievre has fashioned his own election campaign on Trump's style and buffoonish rhetoric. He has adopted Trump's rude mannerisms, his disparaging rhetoric towards reporters.
A lot of people would say that you're simply taking a page out of the Donald Trump book.
Like which people would say that?
Well, I'm sure a great many Canadians, but...
And his destructive policies straight out of Trump's Project 25, the blueprint that Elon Musk is using to fire hundreds of thousands of federal workers.
We have to get rid of liberal waste. Under Trudeau-Carney Liberals, they have, for example, added 100,000 public servants. I'll be reducing the number of bureaucrats.
And the attempt to destroy the Canadian economy. And so, do not believe a word about Poilievre's newfound tough guy shtick. Patriotism is the refuge of scoundrels. He spent the past 2 years pissing all over our country and sucking up to Trump and his MAGA followers. Now that the election landscape has changed in Canada, the chameleon drapes himself in the Canadian flag and morphs into Captain Canada. My late father always reminded me of the old expression, remember, he said, a leopard never changes his spots. And that, my friends, is the scam that Poilievre is trying to pull off. Pierre Poilievre's energy and climate policies can be summed up in 2 words: environmental vandalism. His platform, if you want to call it that, prioritises fossil fuels and deregulation over robust climate action. He's made bold promises that raise serious questions, especially about the growing threats of wildfires and floods. In 2023, 15 million hectares of forests burned in Canada. This is an area larger than the entire country of England. And Poilievre has no climate change plans to tackle this crisis other than repeating his mantra of technology, not taxes. He falsely believes that technology will take care of carbon emissions. He points to nuclear power, carbon capture, and hydroelectric projects as his alternative to carbon pricing. But all of these so-called solutions lack firm timelines and even funding. Take nuclear power. It is decades off into the future, with Quebec basically saying they're not even going to look at it until 2035. Carbon capture's scalability is dubious and costly. The Pathways carbon capture project in Alberta is years away from going into operation, with not even a shovel in the ground as of yet.
We've been talking about carbon contracts for difference. We got to actually run that to ground and, know exactly what that looks like. So at this point, it's more, the pieces are all there. It's just collectively, there's still too much uncertainty because a lot of them are still more at the theoretical level as opposed to here's a piece of paper with the exact details you can count on to make the investment.
And hydroelectric dams would take a decade to build even if they were approved. So Poilievre's climate change plans to replace carbon pricing simply do not exist. They're just basically smoke and mirrors, no pun intended. His push for pipelines and LNG exports doubles down on fossil fuels, framed as a global good. He wants to stuff dirty oil and gas into pipelines, transport it 800 miles to the coast, ship it off to the other side of the world to be burned. That's his climate change plan. Let someone else worry about it. But not so fast. Canada's emissions would also skyrocket, accelerating global warming that dries landscapes and disrupts rainfalls. Poilievre sidesteps the Paris climate targets and net zero commitments, offering basically no alternatives. We are heading for an environmental disaster if we elect this guy. And as I've already said, this is pure environmental vandalism. In closing, Trump's rambling earlier that Poilievre is not MAGA is pure bullshit. Trump knows how unpopular he is in Canada, and so he has no problem pretending that he's going to distance himself or put some distance between himself and Poilievre. What matters in the end are the MAGA policies that Poilievre adopts, and so far we've plenty of examples to show that Poilievre is marching lockstep in sync with Donald Trump, Elon Musk and the MAGA gang. Pierre Poilievre is in panic mode at the moment. He has placed all of his eggs in the Trudeau basket, and it just blew up in his face. He was more than happy to suck up to the anti-vaxxers, social media trolls, the racists, the bigots, the misogynists online, because he figured it was just growing his big tent, and then boom, his world was turned upside down. He has shown Canadians who he is over the past 2 years. He is incapable of leading this country against the existential threat posed by his ally Donald Trump. Let's not make the same mistake that voters in the US made. Ditch any notion of voting for this guy before he destroys our country. And that, my friends, sums it up. Pierre Poilievre is not fit to be the Prime Minister of Canada. You've been watching The Raw Edge with Sid Ryan.